Hey everyone, the Electronic Arts. I was trying to get my head wrapped around everything that's already been happening today and yesterday, but the Electronic Arts E3 2015 press conference has just finished, which means we got a look at a lot of sports games that people patiently or not so patiently, more like snarkily, sat through in anticipation of seeing some of the bigger action RPG shooting games that we come to expect from Electronic Arts that balance out sort of their sports portfolio. So let's walk through, just like with the Microsoft one, some of the big headlines and kind of just react to a little bit of what we saw from a shorter press conference with less games, but in some ways no less exciting because some of my most anticipated games were actually tucked in here. So why don't I pull up the first thing, which was Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, we're not going to see this game until, ship until sometime late 2016. They announced it's a holiday 2016 game, but they've been teasing a new Mass Effect for a while. They've been building this actually since Mass Effect 3 was getting ready to ship in early 2013. In a blog post, they outlined they already wanted to start thinking about and crafting the future of Mass Effect while they were finishing off their first trilogy. We still don't know how they're going to either ignore or integrate certain plot threads from Mass Effect 3. The thinking so far has been that maybe it does take place after the events of Mass Effect, but far away from the events of Mass Effect, that they can kind of just go, we don't have to deal with the consequences of those various endings that people we chose to finish out Mass Effect 3. Still don't know how that's going to roll out. That's probably something we'll learn as the game gets closer to release, which again, like I said, is a little bit far off, being holiday 2016. That said, we know it's Mass Effect Andromeda. We know it's another kind of, openish RPG, sci-fi. The game opened with someone kind of swiping through a bunch of different planets. We've heard in the past that the game is going to concentrate heavily on exploration, which was some of the most fun elements of the Mass Effect games, and they were going to amp that up to some other degree with Mass Effect Andromeda. And really, that's kind of all we know about it. I'm going to load up the post here to see if there's anything I'm missing. But really, this is just kind of putting a stake in the ground to say that Mass Effect Andromeda is coming. It's not called Mass Effect 4, so they're sort of kicking off a new storyline with new characters. The character that's in the trailer is not the character you'll play, apparently, and they did say that what was in the trailer was in-engine, but then again, that's always kind of a fine line. What is in-engine is not gameplay, but as evidenced by Star Wars Battlefront, the stuff they showed that was in gameplay looked incredibly impressive as well, but not as impressive as the in-engine stuff. That is very different. In-engine allows them to craft very meticulous, very cinematic looks at games that may not be misrepresentative of the visuals, but are possibly misrepresentative of how the game will look when you actually play it. That said, it was just a teaser. Kicking things off. It's a long road ahead for us learning more about Mass Effect Andromeda. I really enjoyed Mass Effect 1 and 2. I'm one of those weirdos that enjoyed the first one more than the second one, and part of the reason I enjoyed Mass Effect 1 more than Mass Effect 2 was because it was setting up a world, setting up a universe, setting up characters, and we were learning all of that for the first time, whereas 2 and 3 were much more interested in exploring the lore and the backstory and how we're going to wrap this stuff up. And all of the setup that happened in Mass Effect 1 was my favorite part. So the fact that Andromeda may just sort of ignore everything else that happened and kick things off with a brand new storyline, brand new characters, I don't have a problem with that, and I'm happy to see them do it. So hope to see more of that in the near future, but it sounds like we're actually not going to hear about anything from Andromeda till later in 2016, way later, or 2015 rather, way later in 2015. I eagerly await the Mass Effect Andromeda Game Informer cover. From there, they showed off a Need for Speed, which I guess I'll say is pretty. It looks beautiful, but those aren't my kinds of games, so I'm not going to sit here and snark on something that is for other people. So hopefully, if Need for Speed fans are excited about it, please drop your comments into the thread below and let us know what you think of Need for Speed. How does this measure up to the previous games in the series? They've called this a complete reboot. Does it feel like one of those? Again, not the person to talk about. But I do want to talk about Unravel, which is a small indie game. I guess it's not super clear to me. I was busy typing out Mass Effect stuff for work when they showed the trailer for this, whether it's actually being made at EA or they picked up an indie title and they're publishing it. Whatever the case, I don't really care. It was one of my favorite moments at E3 so far because the guy on stage was so incredibly nervous. He was so genuine and enthralled and excited to be showing off his game to the world, knowing there were hundreds of thousands, millions of people watching. They were here for Mass Effect. They were here for FIFA. They were here for Battlefront. And here was he, allowed to come up on stage to talk about Unravel and show his cute, passionate, heartwarming, yarn-based platformer Apparently, it's Year of the Yarn between Yoshi's Woolly World, and Unravel. But it was just a moment in a week full of cynicism, in a week full of sequels, in a week full of bombast, and a week full of scripted events in which people have spent so much time rehearsing to a T to impress us to the nth degree so they can get that social media engagement. Unravel was the rare moment in which a developer, a creator, came on stage, was genuine with all of us, made mistakes, stumbled, showed that he was nervous, and then allowed us to see what he's creating. And I think it looks beautiful. I hope it plays as good as it looks, because I cannot wait to check out more of Unravel later in the year. This is one of those games that, gosh, do I wish I was at E3, because everyone would be rushing off to some booth, and I'd be rushing off to try and see more of Unravel. But seems like the kind of game that might come out not too distant future. Hopefully that's something, like late summer, early fall. But either way, it looks fantastic. Highly recommend you check it out. There was the Hoop God, the God of Hoops. Who doesn't love the Hoop God? But what I do love is Mirror's Edge. Now, Mirror's Edge is not a game I'm going to imply is flawless in any sort of degree, but the atmosphere, the aesthetic, the gameplay, the sense of motion, the movement, the feel. When people use the term game feel, Mirror's Edge, I feel like, encapsulates what that kind of like bullshitty term means. Like, to walk through, to run through, to jump through the world of Mirror's Edge was something that exhilarated me in a way that I don't feel in most games. The idea of a first-person exploration parkour platforming game was not something I ever thought I was going to enjoy or could be pulled off. And Mirror's Edge, for all of its faults, showcased something genuinely special, something genuinely inspiring. And I was so excited to see them explore that, except that Electronic Arts thought it was a game that should be shipped in the fall, a game that should become a blockbuster hit, and it was just never destined for that. It was just never going to be something like that. And so the thing I worried about was not only did that maybe kill Mirror's Edge offer for good, but that even if they brought it back, they were going to focus on things that I didn't feel like were at the heart of it. And so I thought it was really important that one of the sticking points, one of the key quotes they mentioned while talking about Mirror's Edge Catalyst was that she doesn't need guns. Now, granted, that gives them some wiggle room. It's possible that maybe she can pick up guns and then it's an optional thing and they'll encourage you not to do it, or that there are consequences for engaging in gunplay. But what I would hope is that Faith doesn't actually use guns at all. Now, guns are going to be part of the game, most likely. It doesn't make any sense for the enemies to give up an extremely powerful tool to take out Faith for all the parts, all the ways that she's sort of engaging with them and trying to run away from them. So guns are going to be in Mirror's Edge Catalyst. But I would hope that they give her enough tools that you don't need to use them. Now, I still think there'll be like tasers, maybe there'll be sticks, there'll be ways that she is able to attack and defend herself. But the idea of you picking up sort of an M16 or a pistol or doing something with that, it seems to go against the spirit of Mirror's Edge. And so what I saw so far is really, really inspiring. I think so far it seems like they're doing right by Mirror's Edge. The fact that they're making this an open world game in which you're exploring one big city, that I'm sure they'll sort of taper off in certain ways and restrict you from getting to certain things, but that you are running around, there are optional quests you can go after, there are story missions you can go after, but it's all just one big city you're exploring. Just, my heart is fluttering. I don't mean to speak too hyperbolic about a game, but Mirror's Edge is one of my favorite games of all time. Like I said, not flawless, but one of my favorite games of all time. And to see them doing a sequel that they seem to be taking the right lessons on what they're building upon makes me tremendously excited to see what they're putting together. And to know that it has not just a release date, but a specific release date of February 23rd, 2016, means they're pretty, hopefully, confident that they're on the home stretch of this game for like the next 8 months as they finish out its development. Cannot wait to learn more about it. Super jealous that people at E3 are going to be able to play it. But hey, we have a date. Mirror's Edge 2/Mirror's Edge Catalyst is happening, and I will take what I can get. And really, the press conference kind of ended if you weren't interested in Madden or FIFA or anything like that. Again, more power to the folks that are interested in those games, just not up my alley. They showed 5 minutes of Star Wars Battlefront gameplay, in addition to having someone come out and kind of do the hype train talk about what they're trying to put into Star Wars Battlefront and the collaborations they're having with Bad Robot and LucasArts, or I guess Lucasfilm, in order to produce this game. And gotta say, while it doesn't look as impressive as the in-engine footage that they showed a little while back at the Star Wars Celebration, if there ever was a game that was going to get my wife to figure out how to use 2 analog sticks in a shooter, I think it might be this game. They really played to the crowd, had some great moments with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and just, it looks, as many times as I've seen Hoth, as many times as we have gone into that same area of Star Wars, it still looks amazing. It still looks badass. It does really kind of just look like a Battlefront or a Battlefield game swapped with Star Wars stuff, and it's not super clear to me, how much more there is to Battlefront than really. Palette swap is incredibly condescending, and that would suggest less work has gone into the game than there really has. But I'm curious to see what are the Star Wars parts of Star Wars Battlefront. We're just in the middle of learning kind of what's happening in this game. Even though it comes out later this year, it's a fall game. I think they said October, November, one of those months. I feel like there's still not a lot that we know about it. And I have to admit, I knew they weren't going to show Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, but I looked at a lot of Battlefront and went, at least for me, gosh, I would love to play a single-player Star Wars game that was story-based that looked like this. And hopefully that's what we're going to get with Amy Hennig's game, which I imagine will be sort of front and center at E3 2016. A little bit early. They're still making that game, but that game probably comes next Christmas. But I think Battlefront looks pretty spectacular for what it is, and even though I don't really play games like that, I've been playing Splatoon right now, and I can be convinced to play another multiplayer game, especially if it means I could sit down with my wife and play that with her. But that was Electronic Arts E3 2015 press conference. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Please let me know what you thought about the other press conferences. There's a video already up for my response to the Microsoft press conference, and there was a video up for my response to the Bethesda press conference. So you can check those out on my YouTube channel. We'll probably try and do some live Q&As to discuss everything that we saw on the first day of E3, and I'll continue to do live reactions or post. Nothing about it's live. I'll do reactions to the video. So stay tuned for those. You can also get the audio version through inventory management on iTunes. I will see all you guys later. I need to go cover the Ubisoft press conference.